You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 267, and my name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and 5cardguys on Instagram and on YouTube. Co-hosting with me as usual is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards. John, he's away this time, but hopefully he'll be back on our next episode. Okay, off the top, I wanted to get your thoughts, Hyung, on this recent development, I guess. But I don't know if you know, but Pokemon cards, their prices are going a little crazy. It kind of reminds me of the hobby hype in 2021, 2022 for sports cards, the pandemic peak, of course. So I'm going to kind of lay out the context. There are these elite trainer boxes for this new Pokemon set called Prismatic Evolutions. Right. Okay. And these ETBs are like mega boxes, I guess you can say, for all you sports card collectors who are confused right now. And normally they retail for about $50 to $60 US. If you check on eBay now, those ETBs, Elite Trainer boxes, they're selling for about $100, $110. So pretty much you can double your profit just like that if you have one of these boxes. Anyway, on Reddit, someone posted a sign from a Pokemon hobby shop that read, quote, "To preserve the true spirit of the hobby, we're going to have our customers break the seal of any purchase of Prismatic Evolutions ETB at $59.99, limited to the first 20 ETBs. For our customers," this is an interesting part, "for our customers that will be keeping it sealed, it's $119.95. All right. So what do you think about this store policy? And do you think something like this would have worked during the hobby hype a couple of years ago for those who wanted to rip sports card hobby boxes?
Man, this one's tough because I like the idea. I do like the idea because then it kind of serves the purpose of, okay, those that want to rip can rip. But then if you're telling me it's limited to 20 boxes, that's such a small scale relative to how many people actually would like to rip. Maybe it's a standard policy where stores could keep their margins still and offer that to all their customers, not limited. I think that would be cool. So but I'm torn. I don't think people are people. There's who in their right mind is gonna, if they have access to it at $60, it's where's that profit going regardless? So it's even the store saying, limited to 20 boxes. Well, if they have 150 boxes allocated, then that means they're still going to make the profit off that secondary market, right? So, I mean, like I said, this is what I love about the hobby. It's all about innovation. So I'm looking for these creative solutions too. And I love that people are implementing it, because at the end of the day, that hobby shop, kudos to them, because they're trying to do something to keep their customers happy, at least from the 20 people that get to rip. It's what says it? Deal, at this point, it's why don't I rip all 20?
It's limited to one per customer.
One per customer. So it's like the Costco, Costco grabs where they set up the carts with 2 boxes.
Have you seen those IG reels?
It's freaking crazy.
It's like WWE in Costco just to get a few boxes. It's
crazy, man. I'm telling you. And what you said is correct. It's it reminds me of that 2021 hype where it was so ridiculous, and we're back at it, at least from the Pokemon side of things. And I think Pokemon has had a couple of these. It's not just one. I think they had a bump earlier, probably 2022 or something like that, and then now another surge.
No, it's interesting, and you know what? I agree with you from the standpoint of the hobby shop. Good for the hobby shop to do this, and I didn't tell you this one detail, but they're also giving a free pack if you let them kind of record the break.
Right? So these guys are marketers, huh?
Hobby shop, man. They're doing right things, right moves, And, so I like it for the hobby shop. If you went beyond 20 ETBs, I guess that eats into their profit margin too, right? But and then my second question about whether it would have worked for sports cards, I don't know. I don't think the one main difference, in my opinion, is that no one really sells wax, like sealed wax, on the sports card side of things, because for it to really profit, you got to almost wait to see if the players in the boxes, the rookies and top prospects, will pan out. So it's like more of a mid to long-term hold, right? Whereas Pokemon boxes, the characters are the characters. And, if there's a chase in it, you can, pretty much flip those boxes right away. That's why I think it probably wouldn't work on the sports card side of things.
That makes sense.
But there's something there. If you rip it in-house, then you get some kind of incentive. I like that.
Is Topps doing something at all with that or no? Like in terms of involvement, or is that strictly kind of like? Or I guess it wouldn't be Topps. It would be whoever owns the
Pokemon Center, right?
Yeah. The manufacturer.
Yes. No, I don't think I haven't heard anything.
This is interesting too. So I don't know how. So does Pokemon run through suppliers like distributors? I'm guessing hobby shops. Do they sell direct at all?
Good question. I don't know. I started following more Pokemon accounts, and it looks like there's some kind of allocation process, but I don't know what the exact relationship is.
So it seems like you have to be a distributor or a dealer or a big box retailer like a Walmart or Costco, whoever is distributing it. And that's going to be interesting because I feel like Topps and Fanatics has kind of like not the same business model where, hobby shops become, I guess, not as important. And it depends on how you see it, right? Because then if you're selling direct to consumer, like online Topps releases, then it's a totally different story because you can't really policy the secondary market. Whereas if you do have distributors, you could somewhat, I guess, put in whatever
rules,
policies, internally for distribution. Yeah. So I think with me saying this, I just had a couple questions regarding that. Is like, would that affect a direct to consumer business model at all, or would it even be able to policy it because Topps does go direct?
Good question. And, that's a good segue because we have our friends Roy and Will. We're trying to figure out a time to do a podcast together on non-sports cards, specifically Pokemon.
I'm going to have to listen to that because I want you guys to frame it because there's a lot of obviously like sports card collectors as our listeners, not as much, Pokemon, but I would like to be convinced. Like, like for me, it's still like, I love prospecting. I love Juan Soto that I got to see him in 2016, 2017, and then see card prices and extrapolate data from that. Like, what am I looking at Pokemon? Like, I'm still trying to make that connection. So I want to, I'm genuinely curious.
There you go. You can look forward to that episode. We're going to try to do it within the next week or two. You know what? I think other collectors, sports card collectors, will be interested in this too because there are some, like our friend Paul Hickey, that are more flippers and investors. And you see something like this go off, there's opportunity if you know 100%. What you're doing, right? 100%. So I think, if you're one of those collectors or more of the investor type or flipper, sorry, people are going to get upset at me for saying investor, but if you're a flipper, this might be the episode you want to listen to because there's certainly a play. And I'll share my story at a recent fan con here locally. I was able to trade up for $1,000 Pokemon card, which is kind of crazy because I'm a sports card collector, but even I'm getting into into Pokemon.
But it makes sense for you because you have kids probably that enjoy it too, right? So I think that's a big factor. Like if you have if you don't have kids, I don't see guys who break open like $2,000 boxes of Bowman First Crow.
I don't know, man. No, I don't know.
As long as it's for the money.
I think you'd be surprised. Yeah.
But we don't want that. We don't want those guys in the Pokemon space. Do we?
To each their own. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. Okay, so we've kind of touched upon this whole controversial issue of some vendors and hobby shop owners reportedly CT scanning high-end boxes and cases to see, if there are any big hits in them. And presumably, if there is, they would rip the box themselves. And if there isn't, guess what? They would sell it to their customers. Now, it looks like Topps, according to a recent article from The Athletic, is doing something about this. So what I'm going to do is read some of the main points in the article, and I'll link the article in the show notes below so you guys can read it for yourself. But we'll go over some of the main points and we can discuss our thoughts on each one. All right. So first, what Topps has officially done is added something they call an, quote, intrusive device policy as part of its Topps MVP direct buying program agreement. And quick shout out to Neo Cards and Comics for being, I believe, the first to reveal this document. But anyway, this policy states that Topps will permanently suspend all direct accounts with a vendor or hobby shop that uses or has ties to the practice of CT scanning products. And the article says it also includes using weight scales, and we'll get into that in just a second. So on top of that, it says, quote, Topps will ban the person or entity from all Topps related platforms and recover any and all direct and indirect damages, right? If they're caught breaching the policy. So initial thoughts on all of this, and I'm curious, how effective do you think this will be as a deterrent?
I don't think we've talked about the whole CT scanning on this pod at all, because obviously there's a lot of controversy takes, but
right.
I'm glad, man. I think it's trash. I think it's absolute trash that, there's this all started. Like, it's insane. It's like, like they should have done it quicker. But I'm just glad that Topps is doing something about it. And this is, we go back to the last conversation we had. It's like, these are the leverage points that why dealers become valuable, for instance. Like, you couldn't police that if Topps is selling direct. So is that going to be an issue with boxes? Yeah, you're policing, dealers, but what about like the 50-50 Otani boxes or whatever that are shipped directly to the customer, right? So, I'm glad Topps is addressing it, but I think they're addressing it to the wrong group of people, because I think majority of hobby shops or anybody who has dealer accounts, I think would respect that regardless, because they're trying to keep the hobby shop alive. They're not trying to take advantage of their customers they're not the ones scanning, I don't think.
They don't want to risk that too, yeah.
Why would they?
Livelihood.
Yeah, and to me, it defeats why are you open in the first place if that's going to be the way you're running a hobby shop? So then the whole element is you get to rip cards and you want your customers to hit, because that's what keeps them coming back, right? So I'm glad that somebody's saying something, because like, I know it's such a, wherever you sit, because if you have $10,000 box of cards, morally you might think it's okay, right? Mm-hmm. I don't, but that doesn't mean I'm right. You know what I mean? So I'm just glad that more people are voicing their concerns, and there's actual action that's at least giving us a chance to make it better, because I think it's absolute trash. Like, I think to each their own, like I said, but in my opinion, it's trash that, people would do that, because it puts such a stain on the whole experience of, the hobby. Yeah, the collecting. Yeah. So it's like, think you're bidding on a box on eBay. You have no clue that it's been freaking exposed, right? Like, people know what's in the box. You're buying it with the take that, you could potentially hit something big, and there's nothing in it. And it's always been an issue. Even you mentioned with like weighing packs. Like, I remember these conversations were way before, the COVID hype, right? Pre 2019 even. So, I think you'll never get rid of like the bad grapes. Yeah. But you got to also somewhat police it in a sense where it doesn't become a standard, like it's okay. Like this is okay to do. It's like, no, as a hobbyist, it's not okay to do. It's not okay to weigh packs. And especially it's like you could do it on your own time, whatever. And if that's what you choose, but if you're doing it, I see people at like Walmarts and Targets, they pull out the scale from wherever they pull it out and start weighing packs. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, that's trash.
And I want to get into that too, because we're going to touch upon, the age old issue of weighing packs, but going back to this as a deterrent, I agree with you. I don't think it's actually, this is kind of my last question, but we can address it now. And that last question was, how prevalent do you think this issue is in the hobby? I think it is a few bad apples, but that's all it takes to cast doubt on the industry. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the issue we're dealing with. So I hope it's a deterrent for those few vendors and hobby shop owners that are doing it. And, depending on whose take you take, but depending on whose, hot takes you're listening to, it seems like some people think it's a growing issue. And the only reason why I could see that it could be a growing issue if this is left unchecked is, human nature, right? People get greedy, and especially if the hobby continues to grow in terms of financial value, it's hard to look the other way when, there's a 5-6 figure hit in there, right? And if you could get away with it, I don't know, that could be tempting for some dealers and some vendors. Yeah. So I think at the very least, you needed some kind of policy like this in place. Now, to the question of whether it's effective, it kind of depends on how you can enforce it. Like I feel like it's going to be really difficult to enforce. It's kind of like you need a snitch line or something, right? and then you need like proof after that, right. And then it's really hard to, quote unquote, convict someone right. on this hobby crime, right? But that kind of segues into my next question, because the article continues and says there's this company called Industrial Inspection and Consulting, and they specialize in industrial x-rays and CT scans within the medical and aerospace fields normally, but they apparently publicly started to offer a service to scan trading card packs, boxes, and cases. Now my question is, do you think this policy will effectively shut down this kind of service, or does it just go underground? And the reason why I'm tying it with what we were just talking about is that's kind of one way to prove that a client might be using it. Although in the article, this company says they don't keep track of what they scan, right. And so they're
just offering it as a service.
Right.
And it's up to the user to kind of decide what to do with the information.
Exactly. And then it's like, is it worth Topps or Fanatics getting involved in that side of things? You know what I mean? To say, hey, I don't think they have the jurisdiction or authority to do that anyways. To say, hey, this company, you need to.
Yeah, I don't think they have the jurisdiction to do that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
especially if they're not in the hobby. They have a lot more control if they're in the hobby, right? Like if they're like a dealer or whatever, they have a direct relationship. But these aerospace companies could care less about Fanatics.
Right.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's tough because one, it's not good. I couldn't say there's benefits to these third party people that have no clue about the hobby, kind of doing it just because they're doing it for money. Why else would they service this? If their machine, if they have debt on their machine and they could service that debt through that machine through a different industry, they just found. So I can't necessarily knock those companies for that. Yeah. Although I think it is trash still. It's like if they actually knew like what actually go, and maybe they do, and they just turn a blind eye towards it. But here's the thing. I think Topps just doing this as an actionable step, whether it's executable or not, whether it's effective, I think they had to at least voice their concerns, because I think the majority of people would kind of say, okay, now we see this as a negative thing in the hobby. So I think there was never, we see this as a whole, a negative authority saying that this was a negative thing in the first place. Now that Tops have come out and said, we don't support this, it's trash. I agree. It is trash. More people, more influencers, more thing have to say this is morally incorrect for the hobby. And now people know it as a standard. At least there's a voice of authority that supports it, right? So now it becomes up again to, it's the same thing. It's like, how about shill bidding? That's been an ongoing issue. But we know that shill bidding is not good for the hobby and people choose not to participate in it. And that's what makes the hobby great is morally you have people that say, you know what, this is where I draw the line. I'm going to stand. Whereas before, if Tops is not addressing it, it's kind of like a gray area where it's like, well, no one's really said anything, right? Same with shill bidding, trimming, card trimming. There's so much crap in our hobby. And if we don't define those boundaries of what we believe is morally correct and morally incorrect, then we could never get to where we need to be. And you're never going to police anything 100% because it's up to the individual to make that decision, whether to be moral or immoral. So at the end of the day, it's like, that's the thing. But I think it's with all this said, it's in a positive direction that one of the biggest authorities in the space is doing something about it. Yeah, no, I agree too. There's something to be said for social pressure, like if people start really voicing their displeasure in it. And like you said, even companies like Tops, the manufacturers themselves, make a stand, then hopefully that's another deterrent for hobby vendors and dealers that might even think about doing it. Now, Fanatics didn't comment on this article, but the reporter quoted someone from Fanatics previously stating that the company is working on innovations and solutions to address this issue. Okay. And I wonder, do you think that's a necessary step, or now that they have this policy that this is, good enough, or do you think they have a further responsibility to, hey, we're going to go another step further because, we want to maybe inspire more confidence in the hobby that even if, dealers try to do something like this, it'll be even more difficult. What do you think? Where do you stand on this? I think they need to keep on pushing to make the hobby, whatever makes the hobby better. Because for me, if I'm running Fanatics, it has to be as equally important to stand up for what's right in the hobby as revenue. And a lot of people see Fanatics as just revenue. Like, oh, they're doing everything to meet their quotas and their goals, which could be true in some extent. It is a business. They do have shareholders. They do have investors. So they're trying to hit their financial projections. But at the same time, I think it's their duty to constantly evolve to build trust from a customer business relationship. So I think it's in their best interest to continue to police stuff like this where, you care about the hobby. You care about what's best for the hobby. And if there are majority of people complaining about an issue, or there's a lot more negative coming out of an issue, and if Fanatics doesn't address it, I think in the long term, it's going to bite them in the ass, because it only takes someone who does care and then builds the brand loyalty and trust within, that relationship for another company to seize the opportunity. Right. So for me, I'm big on that. I'm big on Fanatics. They have to step up their game. They have to invest more money in stuff like this where they have the voice and reasoning to say what's right and what's wrong. And that it's a slippery slope too, right? And that's a thing. It's like, well, what's to justify Fanatics always being the authority or that leader or that voice, right? So I see both sides to it. And I only say this because I know how many people don't like Fanatics, right? But to me, I don't care, because they see it in their light. but it doesn't make sense. I think Fanatics has been nothing but great in the last 2-3 years that we've seen in the involvement. Because it's all it is what they're doing within 1 year would have taken the old hobby 5 years to accomplish. So of course there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of failures. There's going to be, because we're going so fast, right? But
that's true. Yeah.
That's the whole point. It's like at least something's getting done, because yes, the hobby was great pre-COVID too. I could say, oh, pre-COVID, man, nobody was buying anything. And I was just like, man, I'm telling you, this card's going to be so valuable, right? Yeah. But it's not that anymore. And I can't, if I'm always like, oh, the times of pre-COVID were so great and I want it to be back to where it was before. There's so much that I hear of that. And their best argument is because of their emotion. Bro. Come on. Yeah. Let's be realistic. Let's be realistic here.
Yeah. No, we can't live in the past, but certainly there are elements of the hobby traditionally that we can still enjoy. And I think that's parsing that out, right? And also realizing, kind of to your point, that we're moving forward. The hobby will evolve, and that's the hobby will change, and we try to make the hobby pleasurable for more and more people out there, so we can grow the hobby together. So I agree with you there. I do think it's almost in their best interest to continue to explore the different technologies that are available in the near and long-term future. It's always a cat and mouse game, right? With people that are trying to fraud the system.
For sure.
And I think you just got to stay on top of it. That's just a reality of running a business like this, So I hope they start to allocate and invest funds to use different technologies to prevent something like this.
You know what's crazy? I just thought of a couple of years ago. You know who tried to be that policing? Remember, it was card porn. And this is why you can't have independent people doing it. It's because you don't.
So you don't think you can have an independent body? I just don't think you can have an anonymous independent person doing it.
Well, that we didn't. Yeah, maybe that's the case, but yeah, we didn't know what card porn was, who was behind it, whether because they technically they were a brand, right? And it's like we trusted that brand because they showed up every day, giving value in their way. So we trusted that brand, but little did we know that, it might have not been best, because then people could get bought out, right? So, and this is the dangers of kind of like that, not having the legitimacy of the watchdog. I don't think we need more watchdogs, which could be so dangerous in every single aspect, right? So, yeah, it's that just popped up to my head when I was thinking about policing. Like, is policing good? Is having watchdogs good?
That's an even bigger discussion to be had in general in society, I guess, with the role of watchdogs over different industries. But I think one thing I could say to that point is the hobby is one of the best places where self-policing really works well, because of the members and the collectors in it are so passionate. They don't want anything to screw it up. You know what I mean? So that's what the hobby has for it compared to other maybe industries that's a good point. Do have watchdog roles, right? So yeah. One last thing I want to bring up for this article, and then we can move on to our next segment. And we kind of teased it by talking about the whole issue of weighing packs, right? The age-old tactic of weighing packs to see if there are any hits. But there's kind of a twist in this one scenario I'm going to outline for you, okay? And I want to get your thoughts. The article actually uses the example of what you previously mentioned, the Shohei Ohtani 50-50 commemorative sets, which I'm still waiting to get my hands on. It's coming in February. But they used this set as an example because if you look on eBay, and I actually didn't know this, but it kind of makes sense. But if you look on eBay, they show packs that are on digital scales. Like someone takes a photo of a pack on a digital scale, and it shows that it's a heavier pack, okay? And so those go for premium. And I don't know if you want to guess, but a regular pack, if you open a box, which I'm getting, right, I think there's 10 packs in a box, but a regular pack that weighs normal would go for about $20 a pack. Right. So I could sell each one for $20, $200 a box, so you're not making any profit, but you're getting something back. But if it's a heavy pack, because some of the hits are in heavier stock, they're thicker, those packs are going for about $400 to $500 a pack, right? Insane. So here's the thing. We frown upon weighing boxes at retail stores, like you said, at Walmart or Target. If we saw someone with a mini digital scale, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? We frown upon that. But here's the twist. If you bought the box already, like myself, and I'm going to be clear, I'm not going to do this, okay? So I don't want any hate mail, but I want to play devil's advocate here. If you bought the box already, right, and you want to sell these individual packs, and you notice that one of them is heavier, and you take a picture of it, you post it on eBay, advertising as such, do you have a problem with that? That someone is willing to pay a premium for a heavier pack, just being straight up front right from the beginning?
That's why it's so tricky. It's like, who am I to say, like, because some people
want capitalism, baby.
Some people want that.
Right.
Some people don't want to go through all the base cards. They're willing to pay the extra premium for the guaranteed hit.
Sure.
Right? And this is where, like, whether that's morally right or wrong, it's really
not. It's
more
of a gray area. That's more of a gray area, I think.
I think morally it's more wrong than right, but it's not about that. That's just my spectrum, because some people are like, I'm providing a service or product to somebody that wants it. So who am I to say, oh, like, you can't have what you want? You know what I mean? So that's the tricky part. But my solution to this is, why can't Topps or Fanatics come up with a solution where, from a manufacturing standpoint, that doesn't happen?
Do you mean they should insert, like, sometimes they insert those extra cardboard to make the packs weigh?
Clark, here's what I learned. If you have millions of dollars, it is so easy to solve problems.
Right.
Like, it's and somebody's saying that you can't freaking weigh each pack like the same, even though there might be slightly heavier by whatever grams it is. You're telling me you can't figure out a solution with millions of dollars in your pocket to figure this out? And it probably wouldn't even cost them any more or any less. You know what I mean?
I just gave you a solution that doesn't cost that much. Adding an extra cardboard stock paper to make it weigh.
You know what? And I think they did something like that.
In the past.
And to me, it's like, it's same thing with like redemptions, right? Like redemptions technically weigh less, I guess, than a relic. So it's like, you could, depending on the blaster box, you might not, which one's the relic, the guaranteed relic or whatever, right? So it could work in both ways, but yeah, like,
and who also wants to go back to the redemption days? That's a big issue. That was a big issue back in the day, when we talked about on the pod 2-3 years ago.
For sure. Absolutely. And this is the evolution of it, right? It's like getting rid of redemptions. It's the evolution of getting the hobby better for whatever reason. This is a simple fix for me. It's like, you can't argue, I think, from the individual perspective, because every individual is going to do what's right for them, right? And there hasn't really been anything that they're technically doing wrong, or like from a criminal standpoint. But the way you address these things is, the authority again has to say, is this good for the hobby? Is this what we want to be known for? Can we do anything from a manufacturing perspective that can solve this issue? And I think that's where you have to snip it in the butt. It's like, figure it out. Like, of course, people are going to be people. It's like, if you're going to have the valuable things that are in individual packs, then figure out that problem. Like, it's such a small problem if you have millions of dollars. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess it goes back to what you were initially saying, though. Some people might not think this is a problem. They're like, yeah, I want the pack with the hit. With
of course they do.
Chance of getting a hit.
Of course they do. But it's like, does that make the hobby better?
That's a good question.
Right? And then that's why I always say, Clark, the people, just like any great country, it's not the politicians that make the country great. It's the people that make the country great. Just like the hobby, it's not the policies that make the hobby great. It's the people that make the hobby great. So as long as the people, voice their opinion on morality, I think it will push towards that. But if people aren't saying anything about it, of course, the people who are going to take advantage of it are going to take advantage of it. It's human nature.
So you'd be okay if there was this grand town hall meeting with all the hobbies in the world, and they said, you know what, we like the heavier packs. We like to know that we can buy. We like the option of buying a heavier pack at a premium. You'd be fine with that?
No, I wouldn't.
Or you think that would never be possible?
It would never be possible because I think from a moral standpoint, I think most people sit on the fence where if they're ripping it or they're on the receiving end, I guarantee you they would be very upset if they knew that the packs were weighed, knowing that there was nothing in it and them not knowing it. Like I think that would deter people from participating in the hobby more than staying in the hobby, because education is everything at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's like any investment. If you're telling, are you going to blame the crypto? Are you going to blame whatever, the influencer that's pumping the crypto? It's like, do your own research. If you lost the bag in any type of investment, whose fault is it? Is it the bag's fault? Is it the person that told you to buy it? We all know it. Point the finger at yourself. It's the lack of knowledge or the lack of research that you've done individually. And if you are part of that person that got burnt by anything, it's a learning lesson and you learn not to do that. So it's up to the individual at the end of the day. And that's my whole point. It's in saying all of this. It's not saying that we need a town hall and we need influencers to step up. It's like, it's okay to kind of like, voice your opinion on the issue, and we need more of those people because I've met so many great hobbyists throughout this, and it's not even an issue. I know where they sit on the fence with stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's no different than trimming cards. It's no different than shilling bids. We all know what's morally right and morally wrong. And this falls into that category of it's like weighing packs is such a trash move.
See, again, I want to make that distinction. Yeah, if you go weighing boxes, retail, for sure, I'm in agreement. But if you bought a box and you're just out, want to sell a heavy pack for premium, to each their own. But
you have the right to.
But that being said, I agree. If we had this hypothetical town hall forum, there'll be so few people that would benefit from that.
Right. Buying
the heavier pack, right? To be able to pay that premium, that I think the majority will say, no, we don't want this in a hobby. Right. So in this case, I think adding that extra cardboard stock might be more beneficial for everyone or for most people.
Just think of this way too, Clark. What if a hobby shop had a scale? Would you buy individual packs off them? If you see a scale on the table and then they're selling Prism basketball that costs whatever it costs, and there's a scale, would you buy a pack from them?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because in this scenario of the Shohei 50/50, we're assuming that it's just direct to consumer, right? And then you can resell by yourself, but there's that added element. I'm glad you brought it up. Of hobby shops can do the same thing, but you have no idea which pack was weighed. Right. So there's other greater implications to this scenario.
But I will say the majority of hobby shops would be innocent on this. They would sit on the moral fence of, no, this is not what we're about. This is not why we're open, right? It brings zero value to us. And at the end of the day, the majority would agree. And that's why hobby shops, I think in general, wouldn't be. Of course, they're going to be that one or two hobby shop that is trying to make a bigger buck. You can't stop those.
Yep. And it goes kind of full circle, and we'll end off here about the CT scanning. We just believe that most hobby shops aren't doing this.
Right.
And I guess the greatest lesson here is if you find a hobby shop you completely trust, that's where you go. Just keep giving them your business.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, let's move on to our next segment. We're calling Over Under. All right, so we haven't done this in a while either, but it's a simple game. I'm going to give you 5 cards, and today's number is $10,000. Okay, you tell me if the last sold price sold over or under the $10,000 mark. All right, we'll have a couple basketball cards to start off with. The 2018 Panini Contenders Optic Gold of our Canadian homeboy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, could win the MVP this year. His autograph, gold rookie, PSA 9, auto 10.
PSA 9, auto 10, gold.
Gold. Contenders.
So this is out of 10?
I believe so, yeah, for Contenders.
Oh, man. I'm going to say it's over. I think SGA in general, like I remember when we were talking about SGA back in 2019, 2020, but his time, he could do whatever he was doing and there was no bump.
No hobby love.
No hobby love. So I think from an organic perspective, based on his career so far, I think people realize he is one of the top dogs in the league. And it required him to have a few years where people actually believe that. So I think he was under the radar this whole time compared to the Lucas, compared to the Trae Youngs, compared to the whoever, blew up at the time, John Morant, all those guys. So I think SGA was still low in that spectrum, undervalued. Mm-hmm. And now it's starting to get priced where I guess the superstar pricing becomes. So I'm going to say it's over. Yeah,
I thought I could get you with this one because everything to your point, we should have bought SGA a long time
100%.
Ago when we were talking about him.
I think we did. We just sold way too early.
I did have one. I flipped it for a profit, but it's worth 5x what I sold it for.
For sure.
You're right. He's finally getting the respect. 13,800.
Wow. And then you compare that to other gold contender autos. I guarantee you it's very reasonable.
Yeah. Or even on the lower end.
On the lower, that's what I'm saying. I haven't, that's not my game. Like basketball's not my game, but like I could see a Luka Contenders out of 10 being so ridiculous, right? Like not even, like 13K would be a deal.
Yeah. For his rookie Contenders Optic Gold. Yeah, for sure. All right. This is an older card, but iconic. The 2008 Topps Chrome X Fractor, number to 288, of the Kobe Bryant card being guarded by LeBron James, the horizontal card. PSA 10.
10K. Do you have an image of it?
Yep, I could share that with you.
Do you have the pop count on that?
44.
44. So relatively low pop count, which is a good sign. I think LeBron and Kobe both had like really highs during the COVID peak and then really lows in the last, I'd say, couple years. I will say there's a lot more like Kobe collectors, I think, out there too. I think Kobe in general is going up. So I'm going to say it has to be on an uptick. So I'm going to say over.
Wow, bang on analysis. So at the COVID peak, it sold for over 57,000.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
That card. It's dipped all the way down to 6,300 in December of 2023, so a couple years ago. And from 6,300, the last sold for 10,800.
Wow, makes sense.
Definitely on an uptick, over the last year.
Do you think that was a good buy?
At 6,003?
No, at 10,000.
10,008?
Still expensive, right?
When you look at the chart, the last sale is like higher than the 3-4 previous ones. I hate being that guy.
I'd say that I don't mind being that guy because I feel like anytime I buy and look at the trends, I don't mind not being the low of lows.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, and at the end of the day, it's like, that's the cash you're putting in towards something that you believe in anyway. So I don't mind putting extra cash into something that I believe in. So I'd rather buy the trend upwards on the lower side of things, but on an upward trend rather than being the risk taker and trying to guess when the low is, if that makes sense.
I hear you. I just wish I was like the guy that paid a little bit more than the low. Not three people before me, but kept on increasingly getting at higher prices. But anyway, okay, let's go baseball. 2022 Gold Refractor Bowman Chrome. His first auto of Jackson Chourio PSA 10. Gold, number 50. 2022 Bowman Chrome.
I know a couple years ago it should have been higher. I know Jackson Holliday and Jackson Merrill took a huge hype this year away from Chourio. Mm-hmm. My opinion, Chourio's still undervalued, but gold is very desired, I would say, in first Bowman Chrome. But I'm still going to say, is it a PSA 10?
It's a PSA 10.
Oh, man.
No auto grade, just a PSA 10.
So I would say normally it should be in that 6 to 7K range. So I'm going to say lower because I think Jackson Chourio had such a dip, but there is a lot of hype around him. So I could see both happening, but I'm going to say lower here.
All right. Sold January 21st for $7,700. So you're right. 3 for 3. It's under. Okay, here we go. This is getting trickier. That was a setup. I thought that you would get that right. Thought you'd get that right, but this is a setup. 2024 Topps Chrome update of Paul Skeens Gold Refractor Autograph Card PSA 10.
Is it on-card auto?
It's an on-card auto.
It is. Topps Chrome update is?
Yep, according to this picture, it looks pretty on-card.
Sorry, can you send the picture? I want to make sure it's the right card.
He's in mid-pitching form with his elbow out, but yeah, here you go.
Okay, so Topps Chrome update, gold. I have a feeling some sucker paid more than 10K for that. Oh man, I hope not. I'm going to say, yeah, it's above 10K.
The answer is 7,500.
Okay.
There you go.
But
So
I think
no sucker.
I will say that 7K is even expensive because like you're not even talking the Bowman Chrome,
Right.
you know what I mean? You're talking about Topps Chrome. So technically, like that should not even come close to even 7K. To be honest, it should be like a $3,000-$4,000 card, in my opinion.
Agree, but Paul Skeens is super hot right now. That's why
he's super hot. But that's what we like, Roy, because Roy still has the black out of 10.
Black, yeah. Don't worry, Roy. You'll get a good sale for it.
Hey, and anybody on the show watching, if anybody wants to buy a good Paul Skeens before spring training hype,
yeah,
we got you.
Roy's your man. Yeah, here you go. Okay, last one. We'll end off with football. He's not in the playoffs anymore, but he got his hype certainly a couple years ago. I want to know whether you think there's some value here. Brock Purdy. Remember Brock Purdy?
Oh, yeah.
2022 Panini Flawless. His bronze rookie card, and it's a laundry tag patch autograph card, numbered to 6. Okay, so there's a lot there. Bronze rookie card, numbered to 6, and it's a laundry tag patch auto card. PSA 9, auto 10. Where's Brock
Can you tell me
Purdy's
the high
market?
on that card, or no? Would that be giving it away?
I don't think
There was one?
there was a chart for this one, but I could double check.
Brock Purdy.
10,980 in September of this past year. So this one that I'm talking to you about sold January this year.
I'm going to say under.
I think that gave it away. 10,980.
Yeah.
Definitely dipped under. It's at 7,539.
Yeah.
As of Jan 19.
But that, I mean, yeah, like that's, to me, it's like that. Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The Niners didn't have the greatest season either.
Yeah.
So there you go. Some people might be surprised by it though. Brock Purdy was a guy for at least a year and a half before this season.
That's the thing. It's like you just never know And this is what I notice. It's not like we see the marketplace as what everything sells for. I think in this game, it's what you buy, like what price point you buy in at. And I think that's more important in the long run is your purchasing price rather than. So for instance, with that said, it's like even when you buy in season versus off season, long term, it's not where the card will go to. It's when did you purchase it and was it a good buy? And that's it, right? So for me, I think with Brock Purdy's case, it's like, yeah, this is definitely not the time to be purchasing, but a card like that could potentially hold value in the future dependent on what you actually paid for it.
For sure. Yeah. And you know what? Brock Purdy, this card at this value could be a good deal. Like the Niners underperformed, right? And it's not like they have to tweak that much to get back up on top. So, yeah. All right. That's our over-under segment. We'll conclude this episode with a regular weekly segment we call Pick One. All right. As usual, do you want to start things off for us, Hyo?
Absolutely. We're going to do things a little differently because I'm not going to necessarily compare two sold prices.
Okay.
I'm gonna. So Juan Soto, obviously, massive still, overpaid in my opinion, but that doesn't matter. His card value, I feel it's still down from when the hype was, which is crazy because he's done crazy stuff.
What do you consider the hype?
I would say Juan Soto's hype was probably 2021. It's when he won the batting title. It's COVID year.
Okay. Right.
Or 2020, maybe 2020, between 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
I think he had so much hype there that we've been on a downward climb since that peak.
Yes.
So I feel like based on his contract and his projectability of the type of player he's becoming, like I said, I think I projected him to be one of the only position players with 100+ WAR type careers. And obviously he's only 26 or whatever he is, 25. So there's a lot of career left. So again, it's when is the best buying period for that, right? If you look at it as a long-term, this guy's a Hall of Fame type player, right? Sure. And I think with the numbered cards, and you see it with the Ohtanis, it gets a lot harder to purchase it as they develop in their career, and it's a steady race rather than you won't see a lot of rare cards being sold daily. Even now, you don't see too much Juan Soto numbered cards selling daily, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. The black out of 67 Topps update. Mm-hmm. There's no comps for it.
Right.
So how would we know what's a good buy, really? Because these cards don't sell as much. But with Juan Soto, I feel like there's a lot of good valued cards. Like there's cards that are super inflated, like any gold chrome, orange chrome autos, massive inflation on them. Whereas a card like the 2018 Topps Chrome Update Refractor out of 250, I believe John has the PSA 10.
Yeah.
A BGS sold for $11.50, and this is recently. Sure. Okay, a BGS 9.5.
Okay.
So I think there's so much value in a card like that. So that was a sold comp last week. So I'm gonna pair that 2018 Topps Chrome Update Refractor out of 250 BGS 9.5.
Yeah.
$11.50. So would you buy in at that price versus this is not sold because the Topps Update Black out of 67 haven't had a comp in 3 months on eBay. There's one listed for $3,500 or best offer.
Right.
So what's that price point? Let's just say the dealer or the seller agrees at $2,500 or $2,700. Would that be a better buy? A Topps Update Black, out of 67, a BGS 9.5. I think it's a min gem versus an $11.50 buy of a Topps Chrome Refractor Update out of 250 BGS 9.5.
Dang. That's like
forget it. Yeah, it's not so much about $1,100 is the price point. It's right. Maybe $11.50 that card versus $3,000, let's just say, of Topps Update Black.
Yeah. Topps Update Black. I'm trying to remember what the image was for that card. Is this...
And the reason I say this is because during the hype, like a Juan Soto Topps Update Black, you couldn't even see them for sale, let alone one available for $3,500. So it's like, I've known that card was double or triple what it used to be. You didn't even see it. And this was before the whole hype, I guess, because Juan Soto brought that hype with him.
So is this the same image? The Chrome Refractor?
They're the exact same image, which is something to note of because he doesn't have too many flagship rookie cards. So his Topps paper was that Topps Update. He didn't have anything before Update. So there's a limited run on all his rookie cards. And that's why I think it's a great buy in general, because there's either a base or a parallel.
I think this largely depends on your budget, obviously, but I would be willing to pay $3,000 for the card number to 67. I just think the image is the same, of course, but the rarity, I think that's what's the most appealing to me. And the value that you get from a BGS 9.5.
That was my next question. Not necessarily value for the BGS 9, because they're both BGS 9.5s. It's more the paper parallel versus Chrome parallels, I guess, because during the last 3 years, Chrome parallels have been everything. Yeah. And previously, in the hobby, paper parallels were everything because of the difficulty of grading.
Yeah, for me personally, I prefer Chrome cards. I just think I like the shine, and it's just more visually appealing to me. But I don't know. I maybe this is a recent bias for me. I'm all about black parallels, black refractors in general. I just think it's so clean and
so just black in general. So whether it's a black refractor or a black paper parallel, you just like the black.
It. Yeah, I mean, like. There's that. Remember the Fanatics Fest? They had a Topps Chrome exclusive hits, the Swinging for the Stars subset, in the Topps Chrome, and I bid on a Vladdy Swinging for the Stars black parallel that was numbered to 10, and only the lettering Swinging for the Stars was in black. But even that was like, oh, that looks amazing. So I didn't win the bet. I didn't win the bid. I bid under, but yeah, I'm all about the black these days.
And then on top of that, 2018 black was probably one of the best out of 67 blacks, and I would say 2019 too. But other than those years, I don't think blacks were great.
Okay, fair. But yeah, I'm going with the black, man. If I could whittle it down to $3,000, $29.99, I'll do it.
There's one for $3,500, Clark, or best offer.
Yeah, but there's other Juan Soto cards I want too. So
you know what?
But you're giving me these two.
Yeah. No, I would say, like, I agree with you. I think there's going to be a long-term paper parallel opportunity. I think we've been so fixated on chromium cards and the parallels that's been the trend. So I think the better buy in terms of rarity right now is paper parallels that will hold long-term value. And like I said, there's a lot of the newcomers in the hobby don't see the value in paper products, which is fine because it could be, my question is, would there be ebbs and flows? And is this the ebb and flow of the lower side of paper parallels the last 5 years where paper parallels went compared to Chrome? Because I would say it was probably 60-40 paper parallel to chromium. Now it's totally reversed, and I would say it's even like 80-20 from Chrome to paper parallel, which is insane. So I'm going with the black. I like the long-term legs on that Soto card. I think it's a beautiful 2018 black parallel. There's only 67 of them, so this is the one you buy at a good price and you keep it in the safe.
Agree. There you go. Black parallel, numbered to 67, sweep. All right, we'll end off with my pick one. Shohei Ohtani. I feel like we haven't talked too much about Shohei this episode, so we got to change that. Super high end, okay? $51,000 for a 2023 Topps Definitive Shohei Ohtani autograph card. It's a 1 of 1. It's a red logo man. You got to see it. It's amazing. 51K versus. So it's 2023 Topps Definitive, not a rookie year, and is also graded PSA 1010 as well.
All right.
For added bonus. Or this card right here, the 2018 Bowman Chrome rookie image variation.
I already know my answer.
Where he's carrying his bat bag and an old auto, number 1 out of 25. BGS 9.5 auto 10. You
Clark,
know your answer? What is it?
I would tell you, if there were 3 top Ohtani cards that I would get, this one would be one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Carrying the bat bag.
It would be one of the I think there's a couple cards that are super underrated that nobody knows about, and this is one of them. For those that can't see it, it's basically the image variation with auto of the Bowman Chrome Ohtani, him carrying the bat bag with the on card auto. Numbered to 25. So it's super rare. People don't even know this card exists because all the love goes into the Bowman Chrome pitching and hitting images, right? So with this, I think there's a Topps Chrome employee set that nobody knows about. I think that's such a good card in terms of nobody knows about that Ohtani as well. So I believe it sold for like 10K or 12K, and it was numbered to 25 as well. So it's like, those are the sleeper cards that I'm like, man, you don't see them come up often. These are grails. These are long-term grails that are going to age really well. This by far would be one of those, even though it is super expensive. And the logo man, I get it. It's a logo man. And Ohtani, we always say if MJ had a logo man, or I guess you look at MJ's logo man, you're like, man, even though it was 2003 or whatever it was, whenever his logo man was, it's not his rookie card. So there's a lot of value in logo mans in general. But I think people are overpaying right now for that card. Whereas the true fundamentals are in Ohtani's rare rookie autos that have extreme value. Because if I say a Bowman Chrome orange Ohtani auto, let's just say the pitching or hitting image, what were the sales for that? They're 6 figures, right? So for me, a $54,000 justification on that card is a deal.
Yeah.
Right. So okay. I'm going with the true rookie auto variation, the bat bag for sure.
Can I be honest? I was leaning towards the logo man, but you convinced me otherwise. I'm going with the. I'm like, wow, it is weird that it's numbered to 25 and it's not atomic, or you know what I mean? It's not orange.
Yeah.
So it kind of has that kind of like, the strange, odd, rarity to this card. So I'm sold. I'm going for the
Clark, I'll even say this. There's a similar card in Topps Update as well. It's usually there's a SSP of the paper version, and then there's a SP of the paper version. Okay. There's autos, and they're not on-card autos, they're sticker autos. So the SSP is out of 10, and then the SP auto is out of 5 actually. But they're not numbered. But that's the known print run. Right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
So but I had a chance to purchase the BGS one for like $6,000, BGS 9.5 out of 5. It's a SP auto, and I didn't. And now that card is worth so much. And I remember I was like, you know what? Trust your gut on these cards. You knew that these are SP and SSP, like technically it would be SSSP. The only downfall was their sticker auto. So it's no different than somebody just sticking an Ohtani sticker auto on an SP, and then you kind of have, because it's not numbered. Right? But in this case, it's on card auto. It's one of the grails, I'm telling you. So I'm going to, just leave it at that.
All right. Well, if you ever get an opportunity, that was sold in September of 2024. So you just don't know when the next one will come out.
Yeah, and you don't see them for sale too often.
54,534 last sale. Wow. All right. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Cards to the Moon. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week for a brand new episode. Talk then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.